So there we go. Well, hello, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to our third installment of the Cancer Wellness Center staff chat. My name is Priscilla Andrews. I'm the clinical manager at the Cancer Wellness Center. And I thank all of you who are joining us on Zoom, who might be live streaming this on Facebook. So thank you for joining us on this cloudy feels like fall day, although I think it's still technically summer, right? Yeah. So I am so excited today to have my two colleagues, Debbie Kronenberger, who is our wellness program coordinator, and Lori Bumbaco, who is the oncology dietitian nutritionist at the center. So thank you and welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm so excited to be here with you all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, I had asked, I had reached out to Debbie, and then Debbie kind of wrangled you in, Lori, because I was hoping that, we could talk about the work that you guys do together on the Weight Loss for Wellness program. You also do a couple different educational series. You do the Mindful Kitchen series. You've also been working on a newer series called the Longevity Kitchen. So just to start with, I would love to hear more about like what drew you each to working on that programming and to working with one another.
Do you want to start, Debbie?
No, go ahead.
I think I got roped in, honestly. I think that for Weight Loss for Wellness.
Yes, you did.
The program was handed over to Debbie. It had previously been facilitated by a counselor who is no longer at the center. And so it was handed over to Debbie, and she asked me to join. And I am so grateful for that, because I think that, and we'll talk about this today, but it has allowed us to really evolve the program to be our own. Mm-hmm. And I give Debbie so much credit that she thought to even ask me to co-facilitate, because I think it's this genius partnership.
It sounds like there's some magic sauce involved with having you both involved, right? Well, and I think we can talk about that more, but I think you mentioned, Lori, that idea of having both of these components, right? Having a mental health professional and having that nutritionist dietitian. Which do you prefer? I always get confused myself.
Thank you for asking a great question, right? So I think that the term dietitian is not very friendly.
Okay.
I think it has connotations of the opposite approach that I take, which is you're going to be on a strict diet because of me.
Gotcha.
Right? And so my academy, my organization has allowed us to also use the term nutritionist.
Okay.
Which technically anyone can carry that label of being a nutritionist. So Debbie, Priscilla, you could be nutritionists and offer nutrition advice. So there's really no merit in terms of the education and training and background.
Gotcha. So the dietitian speaks to the licensure, the training that you have. The nutritionist is a little more family friendly, if you will.
Exactly.
But I think, and hopefully we'll get into this, is kind of what is that combination, what is that synergy that you guys bring together to this approach that I think, Laura, you mentioned kind of helped evolve that program. I would, Debbie, love it. We hear Lori got roped in and she got roped in by you. So I'm wondering like what drew you to not only the Weight Loss for Wellness program, but even just expanding beyond that to these whole series of programs that you guys have developed together.
Well, first of all, I felt like the weight loss program needed a little stirring up. And at the time that we were considering re-offering it, and there was a new importance to controlling weight for cancer patients, where there was really good research that had come out that said, people do better. We have better outcomes when people are at a normal weight, and really normal percentage of body fat. And so it was really important. Like we felt like, reading the research and talking to many of the physicians who we partner with, felt that it was really important that we get on board with addressing what seemed to be a problem. Because many cancer patients, not only, we don't want them to lose weight while they're going through treatment, but the other side of it is they end up gaining significant amounts of weight, sometimes, often, or they've gone into cancer, their cancer treatments being significantly overweight. And so we really felt that this was an important health issue that we, as an organization, Cancer Wellness Center, could uniquely address. And I thought, well, gosh, we have this new rock star oncology dietitian, and had a lot of great vibe, a lot of really amazing information that, boy, I didn't know about. And I was like, I wonder if she'll do this with me.
And I guess the answer was yes.
Yeah. And it turned out like right away, not only is there this mutual respect between us, but, I learned a ton from her. She learned a ton from me. And I think, the whole program has a very serious basis, very serious reason for existing. But one of the things that we really try to do is have a lot of fun. And so we've developed like a repartee between the, did you like that? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fancy word. That was like a $5 word right there.
Yeah, it was only it's not a $5, maybe $1.99 word. And so we've developed this fun vibe between the two of us that I think is appreciated. And so we have lots of people who are coming out of a very serious time in their life, and they really want to live healthy, and they want to control what they can control. And learning how to do this through us in a lighter atmosphere, kind of, I think, resonates with people. And so, boy, we do have our serious times, because there's a huge support component to the program, but we try to keep it,
Yeah, yes. We're asking people to make some pretty significant changes that can be daunting, and especially in the post-treatment phase. So many of our participants share with us they can't walk, they have neuropathies, maybe they live alone, they don't know how to cook. And so it can be very intimidating otherwise. And so we're giving them such great material and content, but we have to lighten it up and make it doable for them. And I think that's part of what makes our program so exceptional is in our approach. It's almost like we're relatable. We share with them our challenges too, and I think that is meaningful for them.
Well, and I think that connects something that Debbie, you said earlier on, which is, how to translate these recommendations that can feel daunting, especially if they were not reflected in the lifestyle pre-diagnosis, how to translate them so that they're approachable, right? So that they're something that is applicable and can be something that people are able to actually implement in their life. Because to just say, I know I certainly see a lot of people where, they know what the quote unquote right thing is to do, but the translating that into behavior change, translating that into their lifestyle is a lot more challenging. And I think you guys have already kind of started speaking to this, but I hear this idea of how to keep this approachable, how to be working together on this and bringing both of your expertise into this program, being something really valuable to you guys, while also acknowledging the seriousness of what you're trying to ask of people. I wonder what kind of considerations went into play for you guys as you were conceptualizing and developing this program to make it approachable, to balance that, having people enjoy it while also addressing kind of the more serious nature of what you're asking people to do.
Yeah, and part of that is we're asking them to join for initially it was 20 weeks. 20 weeks long, that's a serious commitment. So there was a lot of considerations that Debbie and I had to make.
Mm-hmm.
I think right off the bat, we needed to set the tone. And I think Debbie and I did that very well. And I think we continue to explore how to do that, how to set the tone in terms of having some patience with the process. Right. And so Debbie used the expression last night in our group of making teensy weensy changes. And I was just cracking up. She said teensy weensy.
Yeah, it is. It is. Look it up, DSM-5.
But that's what it's almost as if we need to kind of give permission for our participants to think differently about the nature of changing their behaviors. And that, maybe they had so much pressure put on themselves to make these grand changes. And we just know in the long term that that's not going to necessarily pan out. And we're here to set them up for success. And they hear that from us from the beginning.
Yeah, one of the things that we emphasize is that we want you to succeed. And succeeding in this department is hard for people. And what we know, we don't have the magic formula for success or motivation, but we do know what we don't want to do, right? And we know that diets don't work. We know that giant sweeping changes don't work. They are, and one of the things we tell people this, we'd rather them do is not do anything if they're going to lose a bunch of weight and then gain it all right back and feel horrible about themselves. And in this way, we teach people to begin to think about how they can care for themselves in a really healthy way, in the way they think about their self-care. And so we ask them right at the beginning to just begin to make little steps in the direction of the desired outcome. And what we want them to do is to feed on their successes, right? So if somebody tracks one meal where perhaps they wouldn't have, we're like, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so
people say, I can't, I don't exercise. And we say, okay, well, where's your mailbox? Right? Go to the mailbox. Or can you walk down to the end of the block and back?
Yeah.
Right? Let's start there. Do that 5 minutes, 1 time a week. And they do that. And we're all like, what?
Yeah.
Exercise.
Yeah.
Right? The big thing that we always get is people are like, I don't cook.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because we have to learn how to be conscious and mindful of what we're putting in our bodies. And so we have a number of different sessions that begin very slowly, teaching people and encouraging people to do a little bit more. We do a lot with convenience products that are going to make it easy for people, and we introduce them to certain convenience products. We introduce them to different foods that perhaps they wouldn't necessarily have. We have one of my 2 favorite sessions are the ones we have provisioning a healthy kitchen, where we sit down and we actually bring products in and introduce people to the kind of foundation of a healthy kitchen. And a lot of times people have never
idea.
No idea.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And my other favorite is the grocery store tour, which I usually get to push the shopping cart around that has everybody's handbags in it. Take up the rear.
And if I can jump in, I think what I love about what I'm hearing you talk about is, this combination of, I think when people get challenged when they're trying to make a change, it can often be either they're have a difficult time with whey power, right? They don't know. They need to know what are the convenience products. They need to know how to read the back of a label, right? They need to know, yes, walking to the mailbox is physical activity if you're doing nothing. Or they don't have the willpower, the motivation is not there. And so often, people come in, they say, oh, I tried making this change and I wanted to be a vegan and it didn't last, or what, some huge change. And they're like, what's wrong with me that it didn't work? And I'm like, well, all that tells me is that first goal was way too big and we need to make it smaller. Because I think, just as you said, Debbie, that idea of like, you want to have there be the positive experience of success to create that feedback loop that keeps you going to have the energy.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are often struggling with emotional issues associated with food. I mean, I'll never forget when one client said to me, I hate food. All food does is make me fat. And Laura, I was like, food is one of the great pleasures of humanity. Right?
You're not allowed on the CWC staff if you don't believe that. So.
Right. And so how do we get this person, food and eating is such a loaded topic for people. Yeah. And it really doesn't need to be, right? And in fact, I would suggest it otherwise. And so how do we begin to get that emotional charge out of it and for them to at least be neutral regarding it, preferably positive? And it comes with people really feeling a sense of control over themselves. Because when the food is in control or their emotions are in control and they're doing things that they're not going to be happy about later, we get into that cycle, right? That emotional eating cycle, or just doesn't even have to be associated with food. We often get into those thinking cycles. And so one of the things that we work heavily on every session, right from the beginning, is the idea that we want to do things like we want to ask ourselves certain questions. We want to create a peaceful lifestyle, right? Which is why this is a mindfulness-based group, because mindfulness is all about creating peace. And so we talk about that all the time. How do we create, how can we be more peaceful when it comes to this area of my life? And we encourage people, like Lori said, to have patience, right? To don't bite off more than you can chew. And let's create a positive feedback loop rather than a negative feedback loop. And when they begin to do that, it kind of feeds on itself because they feel good, right? And of course, we know not only eating healthy and exercise, and Chris, there's a huge exercise component to the group too, because we know exercise is good for like everything. But we know that when we live peacefully, it's really healthy for us, right? It's really healthy for us. And so at the core of it really is this idea that we want our participants to live a little bit more peacefully than perhaps they did before, because that vibe is going to feed into every aspect of what we're trying to do, and not just what we're trying to do in the group, but
life.
Life.
Yeah. And I think too, like, it's our program especially resonates with survivors because they are seeking a way to empower themselves. And I think every single class we touch on that. How making the decision to walk to the mailbox is something you're going to feel good about, both physically physically and emotionally. And then, and then what happens is when we set these teensy weensy goals, they build confidence. We see it, and it actually rolls over into other behavior change. Right.
Yeah.
So now that I just walked to the mailbox, now I think I'd like to prepare myself a healthy snack. And it really, we see it kind of this process for each participant that comes through, and they're all in different places and stages in their life. And so I think that's where Debbie and I have done an exceptional job of recognizing that someone might not be quite ready yet. Maybe the motivation isn't quite there. And we need to kind of still give them some permission to just soak in the information. Maybe don't make any changes yet, but just soak it all up. And when you're ready and when the time is right, then you'll take those steps.
Well, yeah, and we'd rather they soaked it all up than be discouraged. Mm-hmm. We don't want them to be discouraged. Like, I tried and I can't.
Well, and I think, and I was going to say, I think one of the things that this is speaking to is the idea that what the behavior change is going to be different for every person. And that some of that behavior change may just be attending to the information, right? That may be the thing that they need to get them to the next goal, which may be the healthy snack or the walk to the mailbox or whatever it is. And I so appreciate this idea of, I think that what I find when people want to make behavior changes, they want something really big and something that's like really visible, that is visible to other people. So the feedback loop comes from other people, and it's this kind of external motivator. And what I hear is really this emphasis on how to get in touch with what your system is telling you, and those moments of positive experience, or maybe not positive, but those moments of like self-care experience that then you can internally remember. I felt really good when I chose carrots instead of potato chips. I felt really good when I went to the mailbox 5 days in a row. And that may not be anything that you're in their life outside of the group that they can get that reinforcement from. But it sounds like you guys are there to say, like, yes, that's what we're looking for. Look for those moments when you feel good and keep building on those.
Exactly. Yeah. We have a graduate of our program. She attended, I would say, a couple years ago. And this is where she started. She walked to the mailbox, and she just shared in our graduates group that met in early September, just last week, that she's now walking an hour most days of the week. Wow. So, that's it, and that's, yeah. And I think now that she's just blossoming, and she's ready to take on the next, goal that she wants to create for herself. But I think also too, an important component of our program is this understanding that we're probably going to make mistakes, and we're probably going to slip up, how to recover from that. Right.
Relapse is on the stages of change for a reason.
You got it. Right. So that's part, again, of us setting the expectation from the beginning that, that it's just about progress. It's about self-compassion. Right. I think that's another big component that we speak to. Because, that's part of what happens when you're changing your behaviors. You're going to slip up, and this is okay. It's normal. It's part of the process. Right. And I think that that's refreshing for people to hear, because I don't know that they ever have heard it before.
Well, and I think the combination, even in this conversation of, I can already sense the advantages of having two people in different disciplines. And I already knew that, but I feel like I'm hearing it now of, I think having that attention to the fact that there is this emotional and psychological piece to making behavior change, and to, eating healthier and exercise. And I think to hear a member of what would, I think, more traditionally be considered like the medical profession, allowing that grace and that self-compassion. Because I think as you were talking, Lori, I was just thinking of this kind of the stereotype of the person that goes into their doctor's office and says, "Are you smoking?" "Yes." "Well, quit." And that's the end of the discussion. I think my guess is hopefully that's evolving in the medical profession as well. But I think there's a novelty of having two people from different perspectives holding that space and kind of normalizing these little changes you're making along the way. I mean, I'm curious, I mean, that's my observation, but I'm curious, like, what you each find to be the advantage. You know, Debbie, for you, what the advantages of working on Lori with this, Lori, what you found the advantage of working with Debbie on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're Priscilla, you're spot on. I think that that's the frustration our participants hear is, you know, you're overweight, your BMI is this, you need to go lose weight. What do they do with that? Right? That's not fair. So you asked the question initially, what drew me to the program? And I shared that, well, I kind of got roped in. But what draws me to this program and is the most fulfilling aspect of my career is the partnership that I have with Debbie. We have this.
Are we having a love moment here? Just a spontaneous love moment?
We totally have chemistry, and that's like a separate, that's an aside, right? That's just like a bonus. Yeah. But I think like it's so much of what I do is provide information, help people navigate all of the misinformation that's out there. But it's in the execution that matters. And if I don't acknowledge how someone needs to change a behavior by addressing the psychological component, then I'm not going to succeed. And so I think my learning from Debbie and working alongside her has really enhanced what I can bring to the table as a dietitian in a very clinical world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when right now we're offering kind of a truncated program because of we're in a virtual platform right now, but in a normal year we'll offer the program twice and for 20 weeks, and
it's a commitment.
It's a commitment. Yeah. And it is also we'll also meet with our participants individually. And that turns out to be a really important, when we're capable of doing it, it turns out to be a really important turning point for many of them. And we're in the same room. There's three of us. There's Lori and I, and then there's our participant. And we can really begin to drill down on any kind of barriers. And we do this anyway, you know, week to week informally, but that setting up appointments, individual appointments, gives us some time to do it privately with them. But it gives us an opportunity to kind of drill down to the barriers of what's preventing people from succeeding. And we need each other, because it could be that, you know, somebody is in that emotional feedback loop, you know, the emotional eating loop. It could be that they're really anxious and they need, you know, some mindfulness training, or to be referred to the mindfulness class or whatever, or some therapy. Or it could be that they are having a milkshake every day that they thought was like a glass of milk, you know. And so, and because we've worked together so much now, I've learned a ton of the nutrition stuff from her. She's learned a ton of the mental health stuff from me. And so there is this like true back and forth. And like, I'll address something nutritionally and I'll say, so did I get that right, Lori? And she'll be like, yes or no. And she'll do the same with mental health and emotional issues. So there's somebody to bounce something off of and somebody to learn from. There's also the United Front, which when people are resistant, we give them that. We give them that stability and consistency of message over time from both of us. And that can be pretty powerful, you know, and we can be pretty stubborn and not cooperating with us.
Don't screw up my metrics here, people. No, I'm just kidding. Well, and I think, that collaborative piece that acknowledges, I mean, it really is this holistic approach that you guys have developed here that also, um, I think, again, I think I knew this on a certain level, but to hear you reinforcing my understanding of it, which is, I think, meeting people where they are at as individuals and helping them, you guys as a united front, helping them figure out what their next steps are, right? Whether it's the person who's drinking the milkshake, or the person who is anxious and doing the hand to mouth exercise to help soothe themselves, there is somebody there to help hold them as they're figuring out their way on this path.
Yeah, and it's not just us,
Mm,
because there's the people in the group too.
yeah.
And when the group begins to gel and they really start sharing things, and this was really incredible with this group in particular, which was our a totally virtual group, and we were like, okay, well, let's just do it and see what happens, right?
Jump in the pool.
Exactly. And we had no idea, it could be like we're just like, teaching to a screen for an hour every week,
Yeah.
or what we were hoping for and what actually happened were like incredibly positive, surprising, and we were totally happy about it, which
Mm,
was there was actually this group dynamic virtually. They
yeah.
got to know each other, they started sharing, and most importantly, they started supporting each other. And of course, when someone says something, there's almost always somebody else who feels the same way,
Yeah.
right? And they started supporting each other in a way that we can, because they're cancer survivors.
Yeah.
So it's really not just us, as we're happily finding out virtually. Like in person, we would have that expectation, and there would be something wrong if it didn't happen. But it happened virtually, which we were
Yeah.
really pleased about, and it really deepened the experience of the group members. So it's possible, and so they get that support, the united front from us, like almost like as
Yeah.
parents, right? And they get the support of the other people in the group.
Yeah.
So
um it's so wonderful, I think, to hear. I think that idea, I think people crave that atmosphere and that environment, right? I mean, I think people want to feel supported and like they have peers and that they feel understood and want to give and receive mentorship,
yeah,
while
and I think
also wanting there to be some stability of, where do I turn if I don't know where to turn next?
yeah, and um, the other thing you have to consider in a group like this, which is super important, is that first of all, these people are cancer survivors. They've been through something serious and scary. A lot of times they feel really lonely in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they also feel the same way about their weight,
Mm,
right? It's super personal, and it's um, super personal and often really private. And there's often really complicated feelings about both.
yeah.
And in this group, they have the unique opportunity to address both in a really safe, confidential
Yeah.
environment. And that gets serious, but also at the same time, it's like a little club, so we can joke around about things that perhaps we wouldn't joke around with other people, because everyone understands.
There's a playfulness, there's an ability
Yeah.
to talk about that shared experience, or talk about the nuances of the differences of the experience, while also feeling like, hey, we can still crack a joke or smile, or be silly sometimes, which, knowing you guys outside of the group room or the presentation room, does not surprise me one bit that you bring that to the table. So, um, I'm looking at the clock, And I am a master to the clock here, and I cannot believe how quickly this time is going. And I do want to pivot us a little bit because, when I asked about like how to kind of title the theme of this, Debbie, you brought up the idea of nutrition and self-care. And I did not want to leave today's conversation without us turning our attention to that idea of self-care and, what self-care is and how it dovetails with nutrition in the programming that you guys do.
Laura, you want to get this one?
I'm gonna take a stab at it, but
I'm okay. I like it.
Am I getting it right?
That's good. Right? It's two therapists against one nutritionist, so we'll be gentle.
Okay, thank you. Well, Debbie brought this to my attention, the fact that food and nutrition can be self-care, and it was like a game changer for me. And I ever since I've used the expression that food is more than nutrition. Food is so much more than just nutrition. And Debbie and I like to explain how food it is sustenance. It's three things, right, Debbie? So it's sustenance. We do need to eat. We need to eat to live, right? But it also can afford us other opportunities. And there's a couple of them. One is for pleasure, right? And we don't want to forget that. We want to embrace the fact that we're so privileged to be able to make something from scratch using ingredients and to create something that can nourish our family and that tastes delicious. So we want to embrace that. And then also too, the social aspect of food and eating, right? So if you think about how we all gather around the table and can share, and food only enhances that experience that we have, and I think that's where Debbie and my relationship has flourished as well in our cooking classes. We just naturally I feel like it has, brought us closer, because that's what food does, and so food is self-care, and I'd love to hear Debbie explain this better than I can. But self-care is so much more than just, going to the salon to get your hair done or to get a massage. Self-care is, the things that we have to do day to day to set up a peaceful life for ourselves. And, and eating is part of that. We have to eat. So let's take away the pressure and, the stress involved, especially even with cooking, which is what we hear so often, that, oh, I don't want to cook, or, oh, I can't make this. We want to minimize that experience and actually change the way someone thinks about eating and cooking as an opportunity, as, providing us with this potential to really nourish every aspect of our being. Yeah.
It's lovely. I love that three-part approach there.
Yeah. I think you did a great job with that. At the core of it, we want to create a peaceful life. And creating a peaceful life is often a very disciplined approach to life, right? And it's not always easy, right? But creating a peaceful life is our greatest act of self-care, right? Because out of there, really good things happen, right? And it's so healthy for us to be peaceful in every area. And like I said at the beginning of the interview, at the core of this program is the idea that we really want people to be peaceful, right? Regarding food and nutrition and moving forward in their survivorship. And so, and so often it's a loaded topic.
Yeah.
For people. And so we say, let's take care of ourselves. And the way we can take care of ourselves is by changing the way we think about things so that we can live more peacefully. And that's really the emphasis of the program. It's the emphasis of mindfulness, and also the emphasis of all the other programs that we do together.
Shocker.
Yeah,
Well,
so we give them all this information, we build their skills, we help them change the way they think about things, and then we don't just like kind of ship them off, right? We offer them ongoing support, which Debbie and I always share that we wish we could do. If we can clone ourselves, we would offer even more support if we could. But we have anyone that graduates our Weight Loss for Wellness group join us again once a month. And so sometimes what we might touch on old topics, such as mindfulness, or we might do a cooking demo. But a lot of times the graduates come to us and they might need to recommit to something, you know, especially with what happened with COVID. You know, I think that we really offered an extra layer of support that was so valuable for them, even virtually.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and so, you know, I think in times of crisis, you know, so easy to return to old habits, right? I think again, that idea of relapse. And I see we have just a couple minutes here in closing, and just want to thank you both for being here. Thank you both for your thoughts. Loved that. I wish we had more time and we could keep talking about this idea of self-care more, because I just love what you guys brought to that table, especially thinking about food as being something that we need and have to interact with, but that can be a very loaded experience for people. At least that's what Debbie, when you were talking, and I think Lori, when you were talking, that really spoke to me, in that how do we find peace with that, to live more healthfully and more peacefully. So I want to close with just hearing from one of you, should join Weight Loss for Wellness. When are you guys going to be offering it again? How do people get connected?
So we're going to be offering it again. It's the first week of October. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And you can call the center, speak to our intake coordinator, Katie Hall, and people who are within 5 years post-treatment are welcome to join. It is a 10-week commitment. We're offering it on Tuesday afternoons at 4:30 to 6. And I would love to have you join us in the group. We are also offering a 5-session series called Longevity Kitchen, in which Lori and I explore the long living cultures of the world, and each class includes a cooking demonstration. So yeah, and
move over Giada, you know what I mean?
Well, if anybody's from the Food Channel, we're available.
And wait, can I ask, is longevity, do you need to make the 5-session commitment, or can each one be registered for separately for the Longevity Kitchen?
Yeah, I think we're okay with separately, but I find that so many people are just, you know, once
do
they
the whole,
they're like in it, you know, because there's some themes that we find across these long living cultures, but there's very specific behaviors that they exhibit, foods that they enjoy, and you know, that's what we speak to each class.
Great. And obviously, just to reiterate, the Weight Loss for Wellness, that is the 10-week commitment, the expectation. It's not a like, I'm going to attend once and then attend 10 weeks later or something like that.
No, that's a commitment. And we have, you know, it's fun also because we have guest speakers come. We have usually we do like field trips if we're in person, but this time we've tweaked the program so we can kind of virtually do our field trips. So there's a lot of variety. You'll see Lori and I in the kitchen a couple times. And I think between Longevity Kitchen and the cooking demonstrations from the weight loss program, I don't know, I think our time in the kitchen is kind of the highlight. People seem to like that, have the most fun with that.
That's wonderful.
Lori, you have your Fridays at the Dietitian, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nice. Half hour of asking Lori questions.
Is that's every other week, right?
We changed that to it'll resume in October, and we're going to do every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right, and then we just ask participants to submit questions ahead of time.
So that's great.
Cancer specific, and then I get to try to address each of those questions.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being here. I love this conversation. I feel like we did not get to all of the questions we could have possibly answered. So perhaps there will be a day in the future when I say, come back again, come back again. So I appreciate the two of you being here. I appreciate everybody in our audience today on Zoom or on Facebook. For those of you viewing this on YouTube after the fact, thank you for dropping into the channel. And I will look forward to seeing you guys again in a couple weeks at our next staff chat. So take care and have a wonderful afternoon.